Yes, but this report reads like a child's fairy tale. Jedi. False Jedi. Star maps, star whales, distant galaxies. Honestly, are we to believe any of it?
Yep, this guy said it all. Ahsoka had the potential to be an outstanding series, but Dave Filoni envisioned something different the moment he chose to create a sequel to an animated series that most hadn't seen. While they gained the most devoted fans, they lost everyone else. Here are 4 reasons why Ahsoka's first season fell short. Among the villains introduced in Ahsoka, a rather substantial volume for a single season, only one of them seems to be more than a mere cardboard character, lacking depth and personality, rarely leaving an impression, existing solely to serve the plot. This exception is Baylan, and I'm not sure to what extent this perception isn't influenced by the inherent sentimentality of the actor's passing. Shin seems to have been created solely to be Ren's antagonist. Marek, who generated so many theories, turned out to be a red herring. Captain Enoch seems to exist just because they thought it would be cool to have a stormtrooper who stands out, like Captain Phasma, but with even less personality. Morgan only serves as a vehicle to get to Thrawn, who in turn disappoints incredibly due to a glaring lack of charisma. Dave Filoni should give Tony Gilroy a call, so Tony could teach him that it's not only the heroes who need character development. Ahsoka clearly wasn't designed for just any viewer. It's not enough to have watched the 9 movies, The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, or Andor, which is almost a crime to mention in the same breath. Perhaps even the animated movie of the Clone Wars and 24 episodes of the animated series that followed with the same name, where the character that this new series is named after, Ahsoka, happened to be one of the central figures. No, that's not sufficient. To understand much of this story, you need to have seen a mediocre juvenile series that aired on some Disney Channel and has nearly 80 episodes. Ahsoka, the series, doesn't concern itself with new audiences. It clearly defines itself as a sequel to Star Wars Rebels, without going to much trouble to explain who and why. Centering its story on characters it doesn't bother to develop because it assumes they're already established and makes references to moments as if everyone who wants to watch Ahsoka has read the sacred Bible of the Holy Canon. When Dave Filoni decided to make a live-action sequel to his animated series, he knew he was making it for a specific audience. And by opting for fan service, he stripped Ahsoka of several elements that could have elevated it to a level it will never achieve in this way. The sharp drop in streaming audiences isn't surprising, and it's not because the series is good or bad in the initial episodes, but rather because it's incomprehensible to people who haven't seen Star Wars Rebels, with references to characters and events as if they were part of real history, as if it were about Oppenheimer or the dropping of atomic bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And everyone should know, because if they don't, they're a bad student who wasn't paying attention in that class when the material was covered. But of course, Filoni can make the series he wants, and obviously Star Wars, being a story with millions of devoted followers, can support a series with high costs just to please them. The question remains, for how long? The problem with this is that being a Star Wars fan doesn't necessarily imply having seen or read everything ever done related to the universe, let alone knowing all the details that compose it. No, that's a level of dedication only for certain states of mind. You can be a fan in various ways, but by making this series in this way, Filoni decided to overlook a portion of the fandom that might be more important than he realizes. Perhaps the same part of the fandom that would ensure him a steady income for 8 seasons instead of 2 or 3, which is probably what will happen. The original Star Wars trilogy introduced a speculative science fiction universe, grounded and without fantasy elements. The existence of the Force, perhaps the closest thing to being fantastical, was actually an allegory with religious undertones, where some chosen ones, basically just the Skywalkers, Yoda and Palpatine, could control it for their objectives, whether they be good or bad. The next trilogy took the Force to another level, introducing a sort of more scientific explanation, the midi-chlorians, and expanding this universe with the Jedi Order, the Jedi Council, and the Jedi Temple, where any Force-sensitive child could be trained to become a Jedi. Another antagonistic order operating on the dark side of the Force, the Sith, was also introduced. From there, with the ongoing need to create original content for animated series, video games, books, comics, and so on, Star Wars became a mishmash of ideas and concepts, distorting the universe with fantasy elements more akin to other stories. In Ahsoka, Filoni decided to use all these ingredients, many of which he introduced himself into the universe through the animated series he produced. We have witches, magic, zombies, and even whales moving at light speed in space. This is the level that Star Wars finds itself at this moment, that of being a cheap version of Lord of the Rings or any other saga of that kind. So the question in my mind is this: when will we see the first dragon?